Another anime season started and yet again another isekai was aired. This is the feeling that I get anime season after anime season. Because I do like the genre, but great adaptations like Overlord and The Rising of the Shield Hero come so sporadically that every time I get into one new anime of the genre, I go in knowing that the chance of me actually liking it and furthermore finishing it are very slim. Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy started just like any other isekai. With all the stereotypical clichés, our hero is taken from the real world into a fantasy one, not before meeting a goddess or another deity, and then has to fight and adapt to the new world that he encounters himself in. So straight out of the bat wasn't looking good. Especially that there is a weird moment in the opening scene of the first episode that reminded me of Konosuba. But then, after a few episodes, I started to like the characters. An overpowerful main character that is discovering his powers, a town that is under the threat of a mighty dragon, giant monsters that had their own personalities. It was getting interesting fun, and I decided to stick around. And to tell you the truth, 3 weeks ago I was about to drop the show because although interesting and funny, was giving me nothing new. It felt like an enjoyable generic isekai. Boy, I was wrong. Because when the final part of the season rolled in, I realized that I was experiencing something special. The story started to transition from a colorful fantasy story to a dark story, to the point that I started to think that all of those events were a nightmare of our main character because the tone of the presentation shifted all of a sudden. But it is real. And although later on the story it tries to retain its original tone, when we get to that part, it does feel different in the sense of anything can happen. The show is not a safe place anymore. The story goes around Makoto, who is taken by a goddess because of a deal that his parents reach with a deity, in which they will give up one of their kids in exchange to take them from that same fantasy world to the real one. He accepts. Then, in his meeting with the goddess, she finds him repulsively ugly, not a hero material, doesn't give him any extraordinary powers, and sends him to the fantasy world, not before warning him not to get close to her humans. So basically she cursed him and sent him off to the end of the world, a wasteland where no one lives. Before of that, the god of the moon, who is more compassionate, grants him very special powers that will turn him into one of the most powerful beings in this world. Eventually, Makoto will help a village of orcs, and shortly after, he recruits a couple of beautiful but scary sidekicks, Mio and Tomoe. Makoto is the one who gets more screen time and the story is told mostly from his perspective. He has a good background and a good development, that by the way, is voiced by Natsuki Hanae, who had a very busy summer season. This is the third review that I make in which he worked as the main character. Makoto is kind and cold-headed. He likes to think and develop relationships. He's a smart guy who is just trying to find himself in this new world and uses his powers to help himself and his allies to achieve it. Sometimes he's dull and predictable, and we will discover a huge world with him, because this world is huge, and it does have some world building, but we only experience glimpses of it. I got a bit worried about this character early on because he seemed way too much as Toya, the MC of In Another World with My Smartphone, but thankfully this character does have some personality. Then there is Tomoe and Mio, who serve him as their master and are in love with him because of his incredible superior powers. Tomoe and Mio themselves are also among the most powerful beings of this world, and found in Makoto their superior. That is why they fell in love with him, and even though it seems by their background that both of them are pretty much the same, they are not. Actually, they are two characters that are portrayed very differently. Tomoe is more easygoing and is not ashamed to read Makoto's memories to look for her historical dramas that she is so into, and tries to copy samurais of feudal Japan in the real world. Mio is a bit more reserved, but has a little bit more problems in controlling her feelings. They clash from time to time over Makoto, but they know their role as sidekicks and protectors. They are very fun characters to watch. Although we are explained their origins as his advisors, we barely know any backgrounds or the limits of their powers. The supporting cast is fine, all of them serve a purpose. The ones that deserve special mentions are Emma, who is an orc and the first one to have an interaction with Makoto in this world. She sticks around and is fun to see from time to time. And Beren, a dwarf that makes weapons for the village. Animation is good for 2021, it's not outstanding but it's fine. Backgrounds feel alive generally, with people around most of the time. Others, it's just a wall, but it's very common technique in other presentations. The OST is good, it feels like an isekai from top to bottom. The opening song and the ending songs are really strong. I do think that the ED is stronger. Not the best that I heard this season, but both of them are really good. Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy early season feels like your average modern isekai, pulling from cliches that you will see in other presentations. But the story evolves into a more mature one and has turned into one of the most solid 2021 animes of its genre. One of the biggest surprises of this summer season. For me, a 7 out of 10. With its weaknesses being an undeveloped world and a weak early season that left a feeling of trying to be a parody of other titles in its genre. So tell me, do you like isekais? If so, which is your favorite one? Do you like light tone or a bit darker? Let me know in the comment section down below. Guys, thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you did, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, join the Discord for free, the link is in the description section down below, and as always I wish you all a wonderful day.